to the channel, and in today's video we're doing a recap and review of Married at First Sight season 12 episode 3, Nice to Marry You, Chris and Paige wedding. So if you're new here, hit the subscribe button, turn on your notifications. If you like this video, hit that like button and feel free to drop a comment. I do engage with my subscribers and viewers. So this episode, as cringy as it was, starts out with both, at least Chris, along with his officiant, awaiting Paige to walk down the aisle. As we remember, she did partake in some spiritual upliftment and praying before the ceremony, while his biggest concern was his hopes, and of course we learned whether or not his wife is going to be attractive. Now, after that, things got really awkward really quickly. The thing is that they saw each other. The thing is, I think the biggest issue that was an initial eye-opener, especially for Paige, because of course we hear her mention this later, is when he get ready to read his vows to her. And I don't know if you guys remember, but we definitely remember, because this was definitely a memorable wedding. When he read his vows, he would not look at her. And of course, with him not looking at her when he read the vows, it made a disconnect. The interesting thing too is, even though it seems on surface that he did find his soon-to-be wife attractive, the father also thought she was very attractive. But the thing is that the initial connection, it was not 100%. And Paige could definitely feel that. And you can tell in his demeanor that there was some sense of hesitation. Again, he could not look into her eyes at any point, unless, some scenes was clipped out. But from what we saw, he did not look her in her eyes when talking about those vows. And she can tell that, again, there was a disconnect, and I know she was looking for that look, for him to say those things, and then give her eye contact. Now, on the flip side, he gave her eye contact when she was reading her vows to him, and he was even responding like, okay, yeah, but at least she did give him eye contact. So I just thought that was pretty interesting. Some people said it was nerves, but as we go further into this wedding, it reveals a lot. Of course, we have the ring exchange ceremony where he put a ring on her finger, and then she puts a ring on his finger, and it came time to kiss the bride. And the interesting thing is, he was like, "Do you want me to kiss you?" And then she was like, "Yeah, you can." And he said, "Well, on the cheek or where?" And she said, "No, you can kiss me." And of course, they finally went in for the kiss. It was awkward. It was quick. It had to be like 2 seconds. But, they introduced them as the newly married Williams couple. So let's talk about this conversation when they actually decide to have a sit down. And, they begin to tell details. She said that she's an accountant. She just purchased her first home. She got a lot of stuff that is going for her, most definitely. And she looked absolutely beautiful that day. That melanin is really popping on her. And so, he told things about himself, entrepreneur, being the first black franchise owner, and all of that, and how that tends to blend, because on paper, as he said, they connected. But then he asked about tattoos, and she said, "I had 3," and she said, "Well, how many you have?" And he said, I had one, and it was a tattoo of their ex's name, and he just got it covered with a crown and a cross. And it definitely took her by surprise. It's like, okay. And then he was honest about the fact that, he just got out of an engagement, which of course is shocking to her, because she's like, okay, is he really truly ready to be in a marriage with someone else after he just, broke up an engagement very recently? So now it's time to take group pictures. And I mean, this whole scene was pretty awkward. I mean, they did get family pictures from both sides, but you can tell it was just for kind of like posing. And this conversation sidebar with I think his father and some of the other gentlemen about, how attractive she is and how nice she has a body. It was low key inappropriate, and especially with the dad and the new wife, I mean, we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then of course, Paige had a conversation with her girl saying, he didn't look at me through the whole vow, part of the ceremony. And, the girls was like, just give him a chance. I mean, you guys don't know each other. It's going to take some time. And it seems like with Paige, it's about connection and energy. And she didn't feel that, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that he wasn't 100% attracted. There was the conversation between the dad and, welcoming her into the family. But, this interaction was extremely awkward. I mean, I cringe watching this entire ceremony. And part of me wanted all of this to work with these two. Because one thing about, couples, especially black couples, I'm always promoting black love. But, I mean, it was awkward to watch. And so, I mean, they had to have the photographer tell them to look at each other. I mean, as you notice with the other three weddings, there was chemistry. So they, if you look at Virginia and Eric, and I don't want to compare the two because they're two sets of different people, but that connection was instant. And when you were instantly connected to someone. And Paige knew that, there was no connection coming from him. And that is so unfortunate because she's definitely looking for that. And it just wasn't happening. And because he was so focused on the physical than the actual substance, he's losing out on this particular situation because that girl got a lot going for her. She's gorgeous, and it's just so unfortunate that and even he himself said on paper it's like they're twin flames and that they're equally matched. However, he's getting in his own way. And that is so unfortunate for the both of them. And honestly, they should not be together if he's going to block that with her, and she needs to be with somebody who really is going to be that guy for her. I mean, it'll be a disservice, honestly, if these two stay together, especially if they continue on this path that they're on. Now, we got a lot more episodes to watch. But I mean, even this conversation where he was asking her about her sex drive and is she using contraception and the honeymoon baby, her face was priceless. I mean, she's like, oh, it's almost like, what did I get myself into? She wanted the story on the ex, and he was like, it's a long story. And she's like, well, I'm your wife now. I got time. You're going to need to tell me, as he should. There has to be transparency and clarity with this situation with these two. But there's so many things not right with the union of these two, especially with what Chris is looking for, which seems to be very superficial. And her, who is looking for substance, right there in just that instant, it's not a match. And that's probably why, and you know what, I'm going to do a summary at the end of this, and I don't want to get too far off of what we seen last night, but I'll go into detail at the end what my thoughts are. So, I mean, for a moment, we thought that as they were laughing, we thought maybe there's a break in this. But no, not really. Because what he's looking for and what she's looking for is like two different galaxies apart. But it gets worse. After this conversation that they have, with each other, and he's talking about how, he can teach her in regards to the bedroom. I mean, it was a lot of sex talk instead of saying, okay, what are your goals? What are your dreams? What are you looking for? What are you looking for? It just got worse. Now, his dad did give a speech, that they normally give a tribute to the couple. And, he did briefly speak about when his sons were 9 years old and how he saw that they started businesses at an early age, and that he knew that they were going to be, future successful young men, things like that. But for the dad, the conversation gets worse later. So we, of course, the reception part happened. Everybody's dancing and have a good time. Now they sit and talk with the parents. Now, I got to applaud Chris's mom because she really gave some good advice to her. Take your time, go at your own pace. And you could tell the dad is looking at her like, really? But I'm really appreciating Chris's mom because she definitely gave Paige, the strength to say, listen, you know what? You do and move like you want to. Take your time. Don't rush for kids. If you're not ready, you're not ready. On the flip side, we had Chris's father, and it was cringy watching this scene because the way that it appeared is there was some underlying inappropriate behavior where he was saying pretty much, and I don't want to misinterpret, but I'm just going to put it out there, as if she needed to have sex with him all the time so they can get that baby. And the way he was looking and overemphasizing, you see Paige say, look, I got it. I see where you're coming from, okay? So let's just stop. Then there's the conversation with Chris and her girlfriends and bridesmaids. And he started talking about a honeymoon baby with them. And then the subject of a trophy wife came up. And when he said she's not a trophy wife, I think the girls and a lot of women across the viewers, the fans, said, wait a minute, what do you mean? And I could tell by this young lady, I think her name is Ayana, that she definitely wasn't feeling what he was saying. And he said, well, she's beautiful in her own way. Now, whether he was trying to clean up that statement, I don't know. But that whole trophy comment really threw everybody for a loop. And, one thing I will say about Chris is that he's brutally honest. And what comes up comes out, and it can be offensive to some people. Whether he's speaking his truth or not, that whole trophy wife comment just didn't sit well. It just did not. And, the bridesmaids kind of took the conversation in stride and talked about it. And then there was his confessional where he said, I have to be honest, I'm not 100% attracted to Paige. She's a beautiful girl. Everything on paper is awesome. But at this point, I'm not 100% attractive. And I think everybody across America was like, and I've seen some comments on social media about people's chins being on the floor. Yeah. So, and I was cringing. I think I was balling up in the corner of the couch when I was filming. And I'm like, oh my God, no. No, he didn't just say that. And then, of course, she sat down with her girlfriends, and she was like, I don't know about this. I don't feel no connection. She kept saying that all night. And, you know, you have to go with your gut feeling. And her gut is telling her. Now, the girlfriends were saying, he was standing there waiting for you for a whole hour. Oh, yeah, he wants to do this. Just hang in there. You got to get to know him. You know, I don't know if they were being coached to cheer her on, but Paige knows. She has an inner self that's telling her, this just ain't it. And sometimes when you get that inner voice, you have to listen to that. You know, and like I said, we got a lot of episodes to go. This is just episode 3, guys. Could you imagine what's coming up? We've seen some previews already with a baby coming into the storyline. But Chris comes over and says, you know, hey, y'all done monopolized her for the rest of the night. And he was like, we mean her. Who is her? And he was like, my wife. I'm coming over here to take her away and spend some time with her. So I was like, okay, well, maybe we heading in the right direction. These two, they just don't belong together. They head off for the evening, as we saw, and you know, you can tell that both of them are cringing. I mean, she's definitely not feeling the connection. He's not 100% attracted to her. So they get upstairs and they have some conversation about sleeping arrangements and things like that. And so she wanted to get out of her wedding gown. And he was like, let me help you. And she was shocked. She was like, oh, okay. So he helped her get out of the dress, or unzipped it, I should say. And of course, they both, you know, are getting undressed for the night. He puts on this top, but they do a separate interview with him away from Paige, where he was laying in the bed still with his suit on, and he was saying, you know what, as the evening go on, you know, and I see her and talk to her, I'm getting more and more attracted to her. And so I was holding my breath a little bit, but all that stuff that happened at the wedding still is in my head. The trophy comment, the unattractive, the ugly, the father. I mean, it just put a stain on this entire episode, his behavior. So they just shut it down and they went to sleep as two separate individuals in bed. So in summary, one of my concerns is, why did he even sign up for the show? Number 2, why did Married at First Sight choose him for the show? And the other thing is, he obviously isn't ready for this process. He's not ready for this even outside of this show, in my opinion. I don't know him 100%, but from what is being seen, I don't think that he's ready for this right now. And I don't know if his views come from how he was raised with his father, but Chris, with what your grandmother said last week, is to look past physical, like she was explaining about him, and I mean about her and your grandfather, and even what your mom said to Paige when she was talking. Listen to the women in your life. You got a mom and a grandmom who definitely know what that's like in regards to working with women. I know what your dad is saying, and maybe that has a bigger impression, but maturity is the key here, and I'm not sure at this point, and I mean, you're still in your 20s, there's some maturity, some learning to do, especially within yourself. We all have had to go through it. So I want to mention that there. And in regards to Paige, she's absolutely gorgeous. She has everything going for her. If you don't want her, let her go. I don't know how this is going to end up in regards to decision day, but if you're not interested in her, let her be with someone who's going to give her the love, the connection, and everything she needs to have a happy, successful relationship for her. So, guys, let me know what your thoughts are. Please be respectful in the comments, please. So, I'm going to do my post notification shout outs. And this week's shout out goes to Sherman Quinton. Thank you so much for engaging in the channel. I really, really, truly appreciate it. And also, if you want to be shouted out, drop a comment. And until next time, like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.